connect with the problem, because the whole idea is that they were unsolved problems which can be solved now because of new things that are happening, like India Stack. So your goal is to be able to make that distinction. Okay, this wasn't possible to solve earlier, it's possible to solve now, therefore it's an innovation, therefore I can build a business on it. That is the sequence, and so it starts with focus on the problem. And the good part of India is that we are in a problem-rich kind of a country. There are problems about, all around us. So it's easy to, evaluate problems. And, my suggestion to people is that, get to a mode where you're looking at a problem every 3 days. So in a year, you looked at 100 problems. And until you've looked at as many, you won't find the one that really kind of builds the conviction inside you, saying this is something I believe in, this is something I like, this is something that plays to my strength, this is something that can be meaningful in the future. Don't pick the first one, don't pick the second one, don't pick the third one, pick the 60th one. And so you got to go through so many problems to be able to find the right one to build your company around. Yeah, so angel investors don't do all this dog work. Angel investors take it easy. They have thematic kind of focus, right? They will say, I want to invest in financial inclusion, I want to invest in fintech and so on and so forth. So it's only when the entrepreneur comes and brings a specific problem, then they are able to evaluate it and say, is this something that they should do or not? I wish angel investors were more disciplined, like entrepreneurs should be, but they are by and large not. They're very thematic in nature. And so actually, based on their prior interest, then the dialogue starts when the entrepreneur actually comes with a specific idea and a specific problem. I have a controversial view here, and my view is that the government should just get out of the way. That is it. If they can make that happen, they have done 90% of what they should be doing, and which means that their role is that of a groundsman, right? And there are entrepreneurs, there are different teams that are trying to play the game, and the role of the government is to set the ground in such a way that it is kind of good for all players. And wherever the government has been able to do that, it works like a charm. And so that's the primary role of government. The secondary role of government is, can it be a market maker? Could it do a few things where it buys innovation? Why? Because the commercial market for this is not ready. Now in Israel, that happens with the defense industry does that. It promotes its own companies because their own buying provides the market, the first market for them, right? And if they manage to do this, then they're able to go back and sell it to many other countries. Even Indian companies have benefited. I'm a early investor in Dhruva. Dhruva took off as a company in a big way because NASA gave it an order. And later, after they were ready to give an order, they realized they could only give it to an US company, and this wasn't a US company. So therefore, Dhruva had to reincorporate in the US to be able to get a $800,000 order. And but once they did that, it was beautiful, because wherever they went in the US, they said, look, NASA selected us, and NASA's selection was so rigorous and so focused on actually what the company brought to the table rather than anything else, that many people said, if NASA has selected you in a competitive situation, you must be good, I am happy to buy you right now, right? Now that's what the government can do. Government can be an informed buyer for startups, where like in defense for Israel or in the case of NASA, and that is been very hard for the government to do in India, because government is an uninformed, clueless, basically know nothing buyer. And do they recognize that they should change? Yes. Will they be able to change it quickly? No. So therefore, we come back to the original proposition that the best thing for the government to do is to get out of the way and not create hurdles for entrepreneurs. If they can do that, they have done most of their job. Yeah. So for me, see, I must say this with a, so I am here in this conversation in a sense in two roles, as an angel investor and also as a champion of what iSpirt is doing, because I'm very prominently actively involved in iSpirt. And my iSpirt work, because it's so significant in shaping the policy in that area, means that I will actually not invest in that area, because I don't want a conflict of interest, right? So for example, iSpirt is intimately involved in opening up the fintech market in the Bharat area. and is therefore building both the technology as well as facilitating policy to make that happen. And but because many of us are so active, we have refused to invest in startups in that area, because we can't be in both sides of the equation. We can't go around and say we are doing this India first, but by the way we are cherry picking the best startups and making money out of this. It's not going to be credible. So we don't do that as a matter of principle. So I can give you examples from either side. From my areas where as an angel investor I can still invest because they're not limited by my work in iSpirt, or maybe I should talk a little bit about what iSpirt is doing and therefore creating opportunities for others to invest in, which is where other investors are able to invest. And that is to do with essentially to do with lending and savings. My simplest way to describe this is, look, there was always a desire for television in India from 65 to 85. But till Dish came, that desire could not be fulfilled. It was a latent market. Demand was there, but there wasn't a way to activate that demand. But when the Dish came, even villages found a way to install dishes and get many television programs, right? And in 10 years, consumption of TV in India changed completely, right? 100%. Yeah. Same thing happened with mobile phones. The demand for phones was always there. Landlines could not fulfill it, but when mobile phones came, in 10 years, all of India had phones. So today, one of those things is that there is a demand for credit in middle India, in Bharat, for every small businessman, a small shopkeeper, an auto rickshaw driver, a farmer. They all want credit, and the old system cannot deliver it. But thanks to India Stack, a flow-based lending system has come to life, and therefore anybody who gets into this market and picks out a segment, a narrow segment of the market, a particular problem to solve, has wind behind its back. They can see things happen very quickly for themselves. So my suggestion to both the entrepreneurs and the investors is, pick this area, because this is the hot area. This is the area where you have wind behind the back. Move quickly, because in the next 10 years, the dynamics of how credit is given to people, which is called flow-based credit without collateral, is going to change completely in India, and be part of that journey, because it's all ready and ripe for taking advantage of right now. So getting entrepreneurs, doing matchmaking between the entrepreneurs and investors is a very, very important function. And this is a function, which is a specialist function. You do matchmaking between boys and girls in dating sites. You do between grooms and brides in Bharat Matrimony and Shadi and all of that. But, equally important is this matchmaking between the entrepreneur and the investor. And this is like very often matrimony. It is a very high consideration decision, right? This is unlike dating, where what difference does it make? I'll go for a date. What does it? So it's a high impact kind of a decision, high consideration decision. So therefore, the people who have to do the matchmaking, have to have the ability to make sense to both sides, right? Because the whole idea is not to waste their time. And why is this important is because it brings people, people who come here for 2 days, they get value for what they would otherwise achieve in 2 months or 3 months and 4 months, right? Because in one go, there is an organized system to connect you to just the right people and no more, right? And being able to get this carefully done, looks easy on paper, but is actually not easy on paper, right? I mean, it needs a lot of curation. It needs curation of startups, it needs curation of investors, it therefore needs thoughtful matchmaking. And Let's Ignite is that place, right? And I think, this is going from strength to strength, and, the team is extraordinarily good. And I can see this from my vantage point, from just the companies that have been curated, that are presenting here as startups. The bar is so much higher than last year, and, so it's really getting better. So I think that is the primary reason why people have to be here. Look, India too is one of the many themes that Let's Venture is promoting. And this wasn't a theme that they were pushing last year, but this is a theme that they're pushing this year. So it is, as we spoke earlier, an investor's mindset is thematic in nature, right? They kind of build themes for themselves and then kind of look for investments within that theme. And so Let's Ignite has a few themes, right? It has frontier tech as a theme, it has it has India 2 as a theme, etc. So in those themes, it is curating. The theme is important, not so much about what is going to happen here, but how it was used to curate the startups that arrived here, how it was used to get the investors, the right investors here, even before they got here. So I would say 70-80% of the job is done by the time they get here, because that theme has been the lens through which you decide, who must be here, because ultimately you get the right sets of people and then magic happens. So how do you know who are the right sets of people? You do that through the lens of themes. And so that is why themes are important. It picked a theme called India 2, has already delivered value because it has made sure then the right people are already here. And so therefore, this kind of a spontaneous combustion may happen, or some kind of an organized combustion may happen. And that's what I think will be the case as we go.